Beautiful. I'll try my best. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I know a few of you, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ashley Hogan. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist. I have been for 6 years. Prior to that, I worked in early childhood education. Some of you know me from Greenville Nursery School. I grew up in Smithfield for my entire life. For the past couple of years, I've been working in Mystic, Connecticut. I was running a small private practice out there, but then this past year, I decided to take a big leap of faith and open a small private practice here in Smithfield. We offer occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, feeding therapy, some social groups, and as the summer comes, we're going to be doing some respite as well. So it has been surreal so far. I'm very thankful for the big warm welcome into the Smithfield special needs community. But as a provider, I really believe in child-led, family-centered, heart-forward, holistic care. I strive to find the perfect balance of what the science says, but also what feels right for your family. It's a constant battle of, it's like teetering always. But today I'm here to talk to you about something that I'm sure you all already know about all too well, which is burnout in the parents of children with special needs. For the past year or so, I have been completely submerged into this phenomenon of burnout that parents face who have special needs children. My curiosity began during the pandemic, actually. I was working from home trying to do my job through a computer screen, which was something that no one could have ever prepared me for. It was very hard. And it was so hard because I was watching these parents struggle. They had multiple kids at home. Some of them had multiple children with special needs. They were trying to do their jobs, be mom, be a teacher, be a therapist. And my heart was breaking because I just wanted to reach through the screen and help them, but how could I? So I ended up going back to work probably a little bit earlier than I should have, full hazmat suit and all. And I felt very inspired to dig a little bit deeper into this unique experience of burnout that special needs parents face. It's one thing to be a parent and to experience burnout, but then to have a special needs child on top of it, it's a completely different journey. So it was obviously a little bit quieter during the pandemic. Not many people were comfortable leaving their homes. So I had this vast amount of time, which is something as a therapist that I had never been used to before. So I had always kind of wanted to do some research of some kind, and I felt really inspired about this topic. So I started doing some exploratory research. I started running some trials with children. I'd keep them a little bit longer and give the parents a set of recommendations to try while I had their child safe and sound. They were being taken care of. It really wasn't therapy at that point. It was more like respite. I really wanted to change the way that I delivered my services to a model that met the child's needs while addressing the never-ending exhaustion and burnout that these parents were facing. But I wasn't sure how to do it in a way that fit the model of traditional outpatient practice. Typically, your child goes in 45, 60 minutes, therapist is working with them, and then we send them on their way back home with you. We strive for care over, we love to chat, but we only usually have about 5 or 10 minutes. And there's only so much you can do. So I started looking to see what other clinics were doing. And this wasn't limited to occupational therapy. I was looking at multiple disciplines. And I found many, many, many articles that talked about burnout in parents in general. I found many exploratory studies that examine the contributing factors of burnout in parents of special needs children. But what I could not find and what I greatly struggled to find was anything backed by science, because that's the most important part when we talk about getting payment for services. You know, we don't want to use the insurance that you have, of course, but we need the science to be backing it up. That kind of discussed a framework or a model that worked to remedy and balance this burnout crisis, because post-pandemic, it was obviously just worse than ever. This discovery or lack thereof was basically all the motivation that I needed to start diving a little bit deeper. And conveniently, I was beginning a doctoral program at the time, so I was going to start doing some research regardless. Being a parent is one of the most challenging and rewarding roles a person can have. I'm sure you all know. However, when you're a parent of a child with special needs, those challenges become even bigger. Parents who are the primary caregivers of children with special needs face unique stressors that result in a much higher risk of feeling burnt out. And there's not many resources out there to help navigate that. I'm sure you already know this and have felt this, but just to provide a general definition of what burnout is, it's a state of emotional, physical, or mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. So it's like that volcano is erupting and you have to find a way to make it stop. But firstly, let's talk about what some of the common causes of burnout in parents of children with special needs. Very constant high levels of stress. Parents of children with special needs are under constant stress, constantly advocating for their child, which I'm sure you all know can be harder than it should be at times. Constant worrying about who your child's with, if they're capable of caring for them, and constantly just fighting for your child's needs to be understood, for them to be heard, for them to be included. Being a parent of a child with special needs is very isolating at times. They may not have a support system or people in their lives who understand what they're going through. You might have a friend who has typical children, and while they try to understand, it's your own unique experience, and no one's ever going to completely understand it no matter how hard they try. Of course, there's the financial strain. The cost of caring for a child with special needs can be very high, and families may start to struggle financially, which adds a whole other level of stress. A lack of control. Parents of children with special needs feel they have little control over their lives and their child's lives due to the demands of caregiving. It's different from one day to the next. What works for a little while, their child has a growth spurt, and then it doesn't work. You have a great provider in your life for a little while, and then due to the rate of turnover, you have someone new. And it's just a constant lack of control. You're always having to rely on other people. And because you don't want to have to rely on other people, you put that burden more on yourself. And then that's how the burnout starts to happen. A lack of time. It's a full-time job on top of having a full-time job sometimes. Appointments, longer time to get things done. Just getting out the door in the morning will take twice as long as that of a typical child. Constantly having to supervise your child to make sure that they're safe. Constant care. It doesn't stop when they're sleeping. You have to keep them with you when you take a shower sometimes. I mean, depending on their level of need, it's so hard. It is nonstop. Constantly having to attend to them, and as a result, you have little time for self-care and relaxation. And then, of course, there's a level of grief. It's totally normal to grieve the childhood that you had hoped for your child. It's hard, but it's a very normal feeling. And then you also have to grieve the life that you had hoped for your child as well. Those are all hard to talk about. They're very real emotions that families face. And it's entirely normal to feel that way. And then, of course, you feel guilty for feeling all of these things because you love your child so much and you're just thankful that they're here. And that's all normal. And I'm sure we've all been there. But let's talk a little bit about the signs and symptoms of burnout so you can identify them in yourselves when it kind of starts to get there. A lot of physical symptoms, chronic fatigue. I am chronically fatigued forever, so I can't even imagine what it's like for a parent. Oftentimes headaches and a weakened immune system. A lot of emotional symptoms, irritability, anxiety, depression, and then we even see a lot of behavioral symptoms. So that can look a lot like a decreased performance in work, social withdrawal, affecting your relationships. So how you prevent and manage this burnout? It's certainly easier said than done. I know that for sure. I'd like to start by telling you all that you're definitely in the right place, and just taking steps to form a community is really the most important part in my experience. It is so comforting to know that there are others walking beside you, walking a similar path, who've been through what you've been through. We have found that building a support system is by far the most important part. I like to call it a little tribe of special needs moms and dads. Reaching out to other parents who are in similar situations, seeking support from professionals, therapists, support groups. So important to have people in your life who get it and who are going through something similar. Taking care of yourself, of course, is important as well, but then again, that's much easier said than done when you have a little one or multiple at home. Even if it's just a 5-minute skincare routine at night, or just making sure that you're drinking enough water, a little bit goes a long way. And then learning how to ask for help, that can be really hard for a lot of us. Don't be afraid to ask for help from friends, families, and professionals. That's what we're here for. As a special needs parent, it definitely can be hard to find someone that one you trust with your child. You know, some children have tubes and special medication schedule, and it's hard to find someone who you trust to administer that level of care. But you also have to find someone who understands your child's needs, no matter how severe they are. Babysitters are a common topic that come up in my area of practice. They're always asking me if I know a babysitter who will watch special needs children, and it's definitely a scary thought as a special needs mom. I can't even imagine, but they are out there, and that's where your little community really becomes important. There's a lot of clinics, not to plug my own, but yeah, we'll offer parents' night out as well. Friends with typical children might not understand what your child needs, but you know, you have to start somewhere, and just giving out little bits of that trust to them is where it all starts. That's where your tribe can help you. Building yourself a community of people who get it and who are willing to understand is where it all begins. And I just have to say, I'm so impressed by this committee that you guys have here in Smithfield. I do also work in a school system, and we don't really have anything like this. And I just think it's so great that you guys are here doing this with your little community and all the things that you're doing to support the Smithfield families. I think you're taking all the right steps. I think it's amazing. And then of course, learning how to create boundaries in your life. That's like a really hard thing to do as an adult. I'm starting to learn myself. Setting limits on what you're capable of doing as a caregiver, making time for yourself and your needs. Use the services that are available to you. If you don't know how to access them, ask. There's social workers at schools. If you're lucky enough to have a provider who's willing to go the extra mile, ask them, lean on them. There's a lot of Facebook groups as well. I'm starting to learn in Rhode Island. The Rhode Island Special Needs Support Group seems to have a lot of great resources. And we're all here to help you. I love connecting parents to whatever they need. There's so many free programs out there, but it's kind of hard to know where to look. It's definitely a learning curve. And then the thing that there's a lot of research out there that is starting to look at just like celebrating those tiny wins as a parent. Think about it with your child, with the positive affirmation, when they have a good behavior, make a great choice, how much they lean on that and thrive on that. It's the same thing with parents. You have to learn to celebrate every single tiny win. Celebrate your child getting on the bus safely without a meltdown. Celebrate them getting their homework done in an hour, you know. Celebrate everything, because there are going to be plenty of times where it feels like those good days are far and few between. So I chose to share this topic with you tonight because, like I said, it's something that I've spent the past year of my life just completely submerged in the literature and research. I feel there's a tremendous lack of research on this topic, and therefore there's a whole lot of room for improvement on our end as providers regarding ways to better support children and their parents at the same time, all under one roof. That's a huge part of why I decided to kind of pave my own way and open my own clinic, because I'd like to facilitate that change and inspire it here in Rhode Island.